Are we, we're good? We're live right now?
We seem to be live right now.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm going to wait for Rockfin to come on, and then we will go on there. For Rockfin to come on. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it does sound good. There we go. Hello, Rockfin. And how about our get ready to rumble? Are we going there?
Yep, we should be.
Okay.
You can push play. Oh, yeah, just push play right there. And you should be able to hear us through our own speakers. Please wait till your video processes. Okay.
Oh God.
So
okay.
yeah, it's live though.
Yeah. All right.
So we'll let people join in.
Looks like YouTube has notified us, so that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Wow. What a weird weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's well, we knew it would be, right?
I mean, earlier in the week we knew it was going to be weird, just because So we are in the midst of weather manipulation here in the South. We had temperatures reaching down to like 29, 28, maybe lower than that, and we're supposed to get I guess about the same temperatures tomorrow, along with, believe it or not, snow, and not just like lays on the ground and goes away in a few hours. Snow. We're supposed to get like 3 to 4 inches.
Right, and in the Gulf Coast, that's really odd.
That's the last time it happened here in Biloxi was like 1963.
So 60 years ago, we had snow here, so it's definitely not normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we got that. It seems to be affecting mostly the central portion of the country.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at temperatures in Chicago earlier, and it was like 1 degree, and it was like negative temperatures in Minnesota, Wisconsin. Our former home in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area was like 9 degrees, so it was,
wow.
It's crazy, right?
That is really something.
Yeah. And the temperatures in DC are not all that unusual, maybe a little cold for there, but not that much,
right. Yeah, it looks like we're doing good with all of the places that we're streaming to.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we are heard. You want to put on the chat in case someone wants to chat with us?
Say hello.
Make sure you say hello in the chat so that we can see who's listening. We always like to engage with those of you who take the time out of your day to listen to us.
And I think, honestly, the only chat we're getting, because the tool we use, we haven't set it up for others, but I think the only chat we get is from YouTube.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know if we get it from
Rumble or
Rockfin. Yeah. Just YouTube.
Just YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's all right. We have quite a few followers on YouTube, so
yeah, I think if you watch this later and make a comment, it'll show up on the comments. But that's
right.
It. Yeah.
Also, please let us know if you can hear us okay. And I'll be checking in with some of the other platforms too that we're streaming to in case I don't see the comment on the chat on the service that we're using, which is Streamlabs.
Yeah.
Right. So should I read the tweet?
Yeah.
That you said pretty much sums it up.
It pretty much sums it up. So let's just first just say what we're talking about today, and if you gathered from the graphic that is the thumbnail for this audio broadcast live stream, it's the tale of two administrations, right?
Yeah,
separated by 4 years of an error. I don't know if this is, somebody will have to correct me, but I don't know if this has ever actually happened before in the United States. It might have happened like early on. I'm thinking like Thomas Jefferson or something, but I don't know for sure.
Huh, that's an interesting question. I know that the New York Times said that it was a remarkable, what did they call it? A remarkable comeback,
something like that. And whatever. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
It's the it's not the choice of the people, it's the choice of the deep state. But let's hear that quote.
Okay, so this comes from a Twitter post by Andrea Lynn.
Who, by the way, has a blue check.
She has a blue check and lots of followers, so she really doesn't need me to promote her.
Right.
If anything, she should be promoting me. So what I'll say, though, is I'll read what she wrote, which pretty much nails it. We are witnessing a false awakening. People are blindly following fake heroes and unknowingly cheering for their own enslavement, driven by figures openly pushing technocracy and globalism. The same crowd that saw through the COVID charade is now applauding the very politician and system that ushered in COVID tyranny. This is the terrifying power of psychological operations and mind control.
Wow. She should be promoting you, because it sounds like she got some talking points from you.
Yeah, this is basically my talking points since the beginning of time.
Right.
And so for those of you who are just joining us, we do, on special occasions, we do these things called table talks, where my husband and I actually get together and just have a really casual, off-the-cuff conversation about like an event. And in this case, it's about the inauguration. That's why it's called Table Talk. And that's why you don't necessarily see us on screen, because it's just an audio only discussion. This means that you can go about your business, you can garden, you can clean your house, you can feed your toddler while you're listening. So you don't have to actually stop and watch a video. We don't share any screenshots, we don't do any screen shares or anything like that. It's just a discussion.
Yeah.
And so if you are able to chat, we welcome your input as well. Okay?
These table talks go back to when we would literally sit at the kitchen table and talk into a phone.
Yeah, which we could be doing right now.
We could, but we decided to sit comfortably at our desk.
At the desk, yeah.
In our studio. So that tweet, like, there's certain points that just are like, they really stand out. Like, the whole thing stands out. But I mean, like I said, it is. It's what we're talking about in a nutshell.
It really is. The first statement, we are witnessing a false awakening, could not be more true.
Yeah.
My biggest concern since the late 90s, early 2000s, when I was living in San Francisco and watching the first .com scam or the .com boom take over the bubble or take over the San Francisco Bay Area. One of my very first thoughts at that young age was, I hope to God these con artists never, ever get anywhere near the federal government. They're already fucking over Silicon Valley. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Need some eye drops or something?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
They're already fucking over Silicon Valley. They're making it so impossible to live affordably in San Francisco. If these antichrists, if these assholes, if these scammers, con artists, if these Silicon Valley grifters that are coming in from other countries where they have tons of money, to change the shape of California and change the shape of the Bay Area, then what are they going to do to the country? Well, here they are. We just saw them at the inauguration. Right. These very people.
So we've got Elon Musk is in the crowd, and JD Vance, who, as you like to say, is
Peter Thiel in a JD Vance suit.
Right. So he's just basically a non-playing
a non-playing person, a non-playing character.
Yeah, an NPC.
Sadly, though, I think of all of them, he's the one that has the most, maybe the most regret. I just get the sense that maybe he's just like, oh shit, damn it, what did I do?
Yeah.
He basically came out of nowhere because Peter Thiel funded his governor campaign. the sole contributor
Right.
to the campaign, and he basically just made JD Vance
Mhm.
into his image.
Right. And clearly helped get Donald Trump back in power, back in the saddle. And it's like, well, if I help you do this, then you got to have my man as your vice president. Yes, sir, Mr. Thiel, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
But we know that Peter Thiel went in his relationship with Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, goes back to his first administration.
Right. Yeah. And I think that Peter Thiel is the one that orchestrated the fundraising campaign at David Sachs's house in San Francisco. When that happened, it was like, for me, it was like watching a slow train wreck, like a slow car collision happen in real time. I was just like, there's no way we can stop this. This is, just like this tweet said, we are witnessing a false awakening. That is exactly true. This is probably one of the worst things that has ever happened to the United States. This particular presidency, this particular administration. Trump himself, I don't think, is a bad person. He's certainly not a rapist.
No.
And I want to talk about what AOC said, and give that some clarity as well. But every single person that he has padded his cabinet with, every single person that advises him on the next steps, especially when it comes to all of the Silicon Valley advisors. And I know he has other advisors and other capacities, but I'm just focusing on the ones that I'm appalled with. And that's what I know.
Right.
Where we come from, San Francisco, we're just watching this and we're just in shock.
We are, yeah.
Like, it's really horrible. So the difference between the previous administration and this administration is that Trump had filled his cabinet in 2017 with his family, with Jared Kushner, with family and friends. So Steve Bannon was his advisor. Jared Kushner and Jared's wife and Trump's daughter, Ivanka, were part of the cabinet. I think Donald Trump Jr. was part of the cabinet in some way. So it was full of people that you would sort of expect, and so nobody was really surprised by that. They weren't happy, but they weren't surprised by that. So you have to remember, in 2017, artificial intelligence was barely, it was a figment of our imagination. We knew that it had a capacity to exist maybe someday, but it was barely on our radar. Now it's in full swing.
Now it's in so much full swing that, like, you'll be in a restaurant and you'll hear somebody say, "Oh yeah, the AI blah 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 blah."
Yeah, it happened to us the other day.
Yeah, I heard somebody talking.
We overheard a couple of guys talking about AI.
Yeah, and in a very casual way, like, "Oh, this is an AI thing that da 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 da." I don't remember the context, but it was the fact that they're talking about something that is artificial intelligence driven is kind of remarkable.
Exactly. And in 2017,
snuck into our life that quickly.
That quickly, exactly. In 2017, we didn't have those conversations. It was barely blipped on our radar. In 2017, we had never experienced government overreach the way that we experienced it in 2020. In 2017, we had never had an unlawful, unconstitutional, illegal lockdown and complete override and overhaul of our life existence as we know it. We hadn't been told up until that point, up until 2020, back in 2017, we had never ever in our entire life heard the news say things like, you must shelter in place. You can't play with your friends. You can't go to bars. You can't go see live music. You can't go to church. Right. We'd never heard those words before. So here we are 8 years later in 2025, and we have a lot of baggage. We're bringing a lot of baggage. We're bringing a lot of skepticism. We're bringing a lot of mistrust or distrust to this new administration. So it's a completely different administration, and it's a completely different cabinet. that will use that frustration and use that learned behavior and weaponize it against us through AI. And every single person that he's put in his cabinet, either in an official capacity or even in an unofficial capacity, is somehow involved with artificial intelligence and behavioral modification programs.
Which takes us back to the next.
Which takes us to the next point of the tweet, which is that people are blindly following fake heroes and unknowingly cheering for their own enslavement, driven by figures openly pushing technocracy and globalism. And then the last point she makes, which is where I was going, is that this is the terrifying power of psychological operations and mind control.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I'm going back to your Friday reading from this past week about
whole of society.
Whole of society. I almost said open society, but whole of society, and how that is, behavioral modification and pushing the idea of groupthink, and we saw that in the COVID demonstration, COVID, operation, I guess we call it, and through other means too. I mean, we first saw it. So this takes us back to Trump's first campaign, not his first campaign, but his first presidential cabinet or administration. That election, the 2016 presidential election, was the weirdest election I'd ever seen in my life, and it was a precursor to the COVID operation. The way people behaved, especially on social media, was a whole of society approach. People somehow were trained, and I imagine it was mostly through social media, but also through nudging and behavioral change modification through media and other, means, corporate life, what have you, and school, universities, right, were relentless in the way that they criticized people. It wasn't like before, like, oh, you shouldn't vote for that person, you should vote for this person. And it was, I'd seen the gradual ramp up of Republicans versus Democrats, and the sort of party secularization of the country, even to the point where it's like it used to be where there wasn't red and blue. Red and blue did not describe the parties. And that was an NBC thing that they did for a map when Ronald Reagan was winning in 1980. And yeah, it goes back to 1980 or the second Reagan administration, but I think it was the first one, and against Carter. And it was never really, those colors really were never used before to describe the parties. Now it's like, oh, blue state, red state, blah, blah, blah.
Oh yeah, now it's so normalized. How interesting. I didn't know that because in 1980 I was 9.
Yeah.
So I didn't really understand. I thought, so there are people living today who are so young, and this may be their first, entrance into the political voting system. And they may have always thought, maybe all the way back to the founding of the country, they may have always thought that there was a red party and then a blue party, when in actuality, prior to, like you just said, prior to 1980, such a thing never existed.
Now it did exist in England for decades, and it goes, it's Labour Party and Tory. Right. Tories are blue and the Labour are red. Flipped it here in the United States because the red is associated not with Labour, not with the liberals, but with the conservatives.
Right.
Weird.
Exactly. That is weird and very confusing. I think that if you wanted to compare, make more of a comparison to, the 2017 cabinet and the 2017 administration, and then 8 years later, here we are. I think that if you were, say, to look at his address,
Mhm.
his inaugural address.
Mhm.
It was almost exactly the same as it was when he made his inaugural address in 2017. It was very understated. It
Mhm.
was not classic Trump with lots of, you know, antics and bloviating and
Right.
ego thrown.
Right.
It was extremely understated. So those were both the same, which I
Right.
thought was really interesting.
There was,
I wasn't sure where he was going to go
I
with
know.
this time around, but I do remember, you know, so many people were crushed that Bernie Sanders didn't take it in 2017. So it was almost as if Trump was fully aware of the pain that many Sanders and Green Party supporters were under. So he made sure that his inaugural address was understated, compassionate, that he spoke in soft tones, that he didn't speak in loud, gregarious catchphrases. He actually, in fact, today, he said, which I thought was, and you and I both looked at each other and we were like, wow, did he really say that? He actually said today that there are some people who, in this very room, who don't have a home
because of the LA fires.
because of the LA fires. Isn't that interesting? And he kind of turned around and looked at some people like, what the fuck? You know, why are these people burned out of their homes?
Right.
So I feel like there's that. He definitely brings the human element to these very visible, auspicious occasions.
Right.
You
Well,
know,
he wasn't.
he tones it down.
He does, because he wasn't doing his
Catskill
Catskill
Canadian
Canadian
bit.
bit. Yeah, thank you. That's exactly where I was going. But I was going to say is, it was standard Republican Party talking points with some additional stuff.
Mhm.
And because he comes from the corporate world, he sounds like a corporate, CEO.
Yeah,
He
he
sounds
does.
like that. So I think that's where he got that tone from. That's where he was that was the type of rhetoric that he was speaking in. And it was very rhetorical. There was lots of rhetoric in this speech. And the reason we're talking about the speech right now is because I think it sets the pace for what to expect. Now, that said, the one thing that I did not hear him talk about, and he talked about something else related to this, but he did not talk about this in particular, and it has a lot to do with the tweet, and that is he did not mention AI once.
No, he didn't.
He did not. And and it's probably because that's going to be what they're going to, stick us with, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's what they don't talk about that you need to be concerned about.
Right, exactly.
Like sometimes I forget that people don't realize that people are so busy picking apart, what he is saying and what he is highlighting and getting excited about it, that it's what's not talked about that we have to really look at.
Right, because he did mention North Carolina and the people's suffering as a result of Hurricane Helene, right?
Thank goodness for that, because no one else was talking about it.
That's correct. But at the same time, we have speculated here, and we're probably pretty right about it, is that was a storm that was also manufactured weather that was clearing out a lot of places in the Appalachian Mountains that are huge and rich deposits of lithium, and they don't want people around to get in the way of the mining extraction that will take place in the coming years. The reason for that is not for electric cars, which he mentioned that he's going to ban. Okay, he's not going to ban. He said he's going to take away the mandate for electric cars, and that you can buy any car you want, right? Because lithium batteries, sure, they work in electric cars, but that's not the reason the push for lithium is on. It's because of batteries, and batteries are going to be needed to store energy to work as reserve for all the electrical energy that will be needed to run AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
So,
Musk was there in the audience, right?
Of
Or he was even
course.
up on stage, I think.
Well, Musk has been okay. So this is just more than like Musk was in the audience or Musk was on stage, because
Right.
lots of people went on stage and
Right.
talked about Trump. Musk has been living at Mar-a-Lago.
Right. So
Musk is the one who, like, a lot of people were joking it was President Musk.
right, he was running for president.
JD Vance was like, well, who the fuck is vice president?
Right.
I thought you wanted me here.
Right.
You
So
know?
I want to dip back into that. So
Yeah.
so Elon Musk is there, and my point is that, you know, he allegedly owns or runs Tesla, you know, automotive company, which ironically is built in China, not in the U.S. But anyway, yeah. The Tesla is not about electric cars, and the whole push for electric cars was never about electric cars. It's always been, and Tesla especially has been about developing batteries in real time and testing them in the real world, so that they can continually innovate and update and upgrade and learn how to make an efficient lithium-based battery, so that they can store more and more and more energy. The kind of batteries that they're talking about, and I'll stop after this, are shipping container sized batteries. I'm not talking about something that fits into a car. I'm talking about shipping container sized batteries that will be used probably outside of data centers or outside of other places that where, you know, a lot of computing power is needed. And that's what the Helene was about. That's why they don't care about electric cars and this whole business of like, oh, electric cars. That's why electric cars are on everybody's mind. And that's why Elon Musk and the Silicon Valley assholes are so deep into this administration.
Yeah, why they are just like vultures all over Trump, you know, basically manipulating that administration, manipulating him, enticing him with, you know, this idea of great riches and great wealth. They are the false prophets, you know, if you want to get religious. But let's talk about Musk for a minute, and let's talk about the Musks. Elon Musk is somebody who Peter Thiel and David Sachs pulled into the PayPal Mafia group and said, and he was like, come on, guys, can I play? I'm really good at video.
I'm from South Africa, too.
I'm from South Africa, too, and I'm really good at video games. Literally, Musk is the dumbest person in that cabinet, the dumbest person in that administration,
or in that group,
with that group of people. Peter Thiel is an evil genius. Vivek Ramaswamy is an evil genius. David Sachs knows how to narrate. He knows how to spin.
Yeah,
he's kind of smart. But Elon Musk is a total dingbat. He is an idiot. Okay, I can't even stress that enough. So he was a gamer. So he's really, really good at gaming. Okay. And Grimes, who is the singer that he got pregnant, who he has a couple of kids with, and she's the mother of the kid that he carries all over the place, you know, little X or whatever his name is.
Little X.
No, seriously. That's what
really
they call all their kids, these crazy names. The guy is an idiot. Okay. He's really stupid. All you have to do is listen to him speak. Just because he surrounds himself with acolytes and sycophants that say that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread doesn't mean it's true, and doesn't mean you have to believe it. He's really dumb. All right, so I think I've driven that point home.
Okay,
he's really
like a
dumb.
stake in the heart of that vampire.
So Elon Musk and his, you know, awkward, antisocial, nerdy ways had a little bit of money. He wanted to play with the big boys, and they were like, fine. Peter Thiel and David Sachs were like, fine, we're starting this thing called PayPal. We're basically going to exploit and extort things that people do anyway. So people go to the internet and they buy a thing. What we're going to do is we're going to be the system in between them putting the thing in the cart and actually hitting purchase. We're going to be the system in between that, and we're going to make a profit off of that, and we're going to charge extra money for that process.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they became billionaires, is by basically getting in between a thing that you would do anyway on your own. You don't need PayPal. You really don't need PayPal for anything.
Yeah, I mean, it was really hard to buy stuff or to sell stuff online before that.
Right.
Because you actually
true.
You actually, as a vendor, you actually had to get a, I forget what they called it, but like you with a credit card company, that you had to get like a machine, and you had to get like some sort of like whatever retailers have to go through.
Right.
You'd have to do, and it would be cost prohibitive for somebody selling on something like what is now Etsy, or even on your own website, if you're just selling, pot holders that you make, right?
Right.
You couldn't.
You would need PayPal as that intermediary,
right? Because you spend more money on your credit card system than you would be making.
Right. Exactly. So PayPal became an option, and so that's where Elon Musk got his start. Somewhere along the way, he became sort of an asset. I think the intelligence community, and who is obviously Peter Thiel, saw how stupid he was. He's basically an empty-headed, gamer that gets girls who game pregnant. Like, he's really just, there's no there upstairs. He's the easiest person in the world to manipulate. He's the easiest person in the world to tell a story, like to fabricate a story out of. Peter Thiel, David Sachs, and Elon Musk all have benefited from apartheid in South Africa. But Elon Musk was the easiest person to turn into a cartoon character, along with his cartoonish mother, and and then his weird like relationships with past women. And I think maybe there was probably about a decade of his life where he was fairly normal. But I think he has all sorts of personality problems. He may or may not be on the Asperger spectrum. He claims he is.
He probably believes his own.
He believes his own bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
And the narrative written about him. Which makes him really dangerous. So you've got a stupid, arrogant person who actually believes lies that are being fabricated and fed to the American population as truth. At least with a lot of assets out there, there's a certain degree of yeah, I know, I'm just playing a part. But they have a sense of reality about them. Like, they know that they're just playing a part. But I think with Elon Musk, he actually believes the bullshit about him. And so that's what makes him even more dangerous. But it also makes him more easier to discard. The more public a person is, the more out in front they are, the easier they are to discard or disappear. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But look at the whole thing with Epstein, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, and even with Vivek Ramaswamy, who is a billionaire because of his involvement with mRNA technology in the biohealth circuit, or the biohealth arena. He's a billionaire because he invests in and convinces other people to invest in types of businesses that run experiments on people. So he is also like one of the most deplorable human beings you could ever.
Yeah.
Like, I did a video called The Story Part 1 on our it's on our YouTube channel. You can just go to it. It's called The Story Part 1, and I took an audio from David Martin and I put graphics to it. And it talks about the history of Vivek Ramaswamy and where he comes from and what his agenda is. And it's not good. None of this is good.
Yeah.
So, and even Vivek Ramaswamy doesn't like Elon Musk. You can tell.
Yeah. In the videos, you can see it on his face.
Right. When they have these photo ops together where they're, shaking hands or grasping each other and congratulations because they are now the head of the unelected Department of Government Efficiency Committee. You can just see it in Ramaswamy's face that he is not a fan.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not a
So-
fan of Ramaswamy.
I'm not a fan of anyone.
Yeah, well, for sure, absolutely.
This is probably one of the worst things that could ever happen to us. At this point, I'd rather have Steve Bannon than
I know.
than fucking Elon Musk and Peter Thiel
Right.
and
At least with like Bannon, you kind of know what you're dealing with. I mean, he's a master propagandist,
mm-hmm,
and he's a media guy.
mm-hmm,
But like he's old school, right?
mm-hmm.
These guys, what we're dealing with now is a total 360-degree mediated world. These guys are all about mediating your life. So Bannon was a media guy, but it was pretty much one direction, unidirectional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was propaganda. These guys are like in a completely different universe,
Right.
and it's all about mediating your life through social media and AI delivered content that is behavioral modification, infomercial marketing, and whatever else that is possible with AI, all wrapped in one.
Right.
It's all just like this big package. I mean, talk about propaganda. We're just having a discussion earlier this morning about how now it's real. Now with AI being more sophisticated than it was before, it's really hard to tell when something is AI.
Mm-hmm.
And we're constantly asking each other, like, do you think this is real? Always. Like,
Yeah.
that's the first thing I always ask you when
Same
you show
here.
me something.
Yeah. Do we think it's real? So, for instance, I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and he seemed more excited about the Trump, inauguration and the new administration. And I don't, since we've been off of Facebook, we abandoned Facebook on December 31st after being on it for almost 20 years.
For me, yeah,
so
18 years.
We abandoned it because of the November email that came from Meta. So since then, this friend who I was talking to on the phone or texting with, he doesn't quite know the full scope of my feelings about this new administration. And so he pointedly asked me, do you really think that the shimmy shoulder from Gavin Newsom was AI? Because everybody knows about it, where Gavin Newsom is making a statement, and it's something about California property being sold off to the highest bidder or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then he's doing like a shimmy shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I said, not only do I think that shimmy shoulder was AI, but I don't even think that conversation was given, or that interview was given by a real interviewer.
Right.
I think it was a soundbite that was only made for the purpose to piss you off.
Right.
To get you to hate him.
Yeah.
Not that he's a great guy. I don't like him either. But what I'm saying is that this wasn't a real news clip. This was a fabricated, curated, theatrical, filmed soundbite to put onto social media and then manipulated. And then with all the tricks and tools and gadgets and features that you get with AI, you can get people's bodies to move a certain way. You can get their faces to move a certain way. And so I was like, not only do I think that it wasn't even a real news clip, because who's the interviewer? Nobody knows.
Right.
It was all just created to put onto social media to get some kind of reaction. Mm-hmm. That's the world we live in. Everything you look at is a fabrication, a creation, a manipulation. It's it's a total psychological hijacking. It's a hijacking of your amygdala. That's what you're going to get with this administration, because those are the kinds of people that fund the companies and fund the technology to make these things happen.
Yeah.
That are filling Trump's cabinet.
Right, exactly. Well, and I'm trying to like tag onto that, but it's like it's like the end.
The end. Mic drop. Okay, bye.
Bye. Well, going back to that whole thing with Newsom and with a lot of these AI clips, they're just real enough for you to go to question, like, well, is that real, or is that you really are not sure. But they're weird enough to make you go, what the fuck is that? Is that AI?
Right. So even when Elon Musk was standing at the inauguration today, and his head was rolling back and his eyes were rolling back in his head, I was like, that's AI. I think I'm convinced that that's AI.
Yeah, he was kind of like bobbing his head and
rolling his head back, and his eyes were rolling in the back of his head. And
it was weird. It was like AI resetting itself or something.
Yeah.
But the thing with Newsom, the Newsom clip, is that when I first saw it, it made me think that it was body language giving away, his uncomfortable feeling around, what he was saying, right? Because the body doesn't lie. With a real human, it's hard to lie. It's people.
Is it?
There's, well, I mean, maybe some psychopaths can get away with that, but
Let's
I think,
go there. Yeah.
But like him, I don't think he's there. I don't think he's that kind of psychopath.
I met him.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. We're talking about
people like, even like, and I hate to say this, but even Scott Adams says, people
they have a tell.
They have a tell. They give it away.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what that looked like. And a lot of people agreed with me. But then as we discussed it, I was like, that's really weird looking.
Okay. So Gavin Newsom.
The background was weird looking.
And then, of course, the way that the shoulders were shimmying looked weird. But I've met Gavin Newsom in person. Yeah. We're talking about the most confident, like he's got that really handsome, confident California swagger and hubris. But he's got a real confident swagger about him.
Mm-hmm. That's why I've never liked him.
Right.
Yeah.
He also was born into deep privilege, and he has been deep privilege
instead of deep poverty.
He was born into such privilege, and he has been curated since birth to be a political person. Yeah. So mayor of San Francisco, then governor of California, and he may move on to something more.
He was a supervisor first.
And he was a supervisor.
And that's when he first pissed me off.
You don't get to be a person like that and have a tell. That is trained out of you at an early age.
That's true.
You have a special tutor and a special image maker and a special handler when you're 5 years old that teaches you. Now, Barron Trump has it. Now, you are going to be a very politically influential person in the future. This is how you should behave in front of the camera. That's why the shimmy shoulder did not work for me. It was AI, because this is a person whose entire life has been all about confidence, creating an image, curating. It's like an athlete.
Right.
If you saw an outstanding athlete just suddenly walking along the street and tripping over a crack in the sidewalk and falling down, you would be like, this does not compute.
Right.
This person is an athlete. They should be able to like fall gracefully or get up or catch themselves. This doesn't make any sense.
Right.
That's what I thought when I saw Gavin Newsom. I've met the guy. He is not a shimmy shoulder guy, a shimmy shake guy. He's not like that.
Right. I mean, go back to some of his like announcements and speeches during the COVID operation. I mean, he was glib and like he was a complete asshole. But he was on point all the time.
He's a politician.
Right.
It's supposed to be.
Right.
So this business of like, well, I think we're going to try to get somebody to come in and buy the property. And I mean, this is so dumb. Like, that's not
Right.
That does not compute.
He
So
looked like a teenage girl when he was talking.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It wasn't real. So this is the kind of thing that we can expect with this administration, in my opinion. Lots and lots of fake sound bites, lots of curated theatrical messaging, lots of things to make you angry that aren't even real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true. And and it goes back to what we always talk about, and the propaganda apparatus that gives you both sides of the messaging at the same time out of the same place. And the AI just makes this much easier. And I've said that before, but I really want to emphasize that now, especially given who's behind Trump in this administration and where they're going.
Yeah. I wanted to read the Li Fang tweet as well.
All right.
So Li Fang has a screen capture from the C-SPAN footage of the inauguration, and the screen capture is Jeff Bezos, Sundar Pichai, and Elon Musk, and there may be one other guy in there. Oh, and look at that. I think Robert Downey Jr. Oh, look at that. I'm sorry, Robert Downey. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Did I say Robert Downey? I wish it was Robert Downey. No, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is in the picture as well. So it's all of these assets, right? All of these like bros. Sundar Pichai is the CEO of Alphabet / Google.
Right. Okay. I just wanted you to identify that.
Oh, just for the listeners?
For the listeners, yeah.
Okay, so basically what Li Fang says about this screen capture that he took is, over the next decade, Silicon Valley will replace blue and white collar workers with AI and outsource more jobs overseas. Truckers, designers, engineers, lawyers, and far more. Power will flow to the dozen tech overlords standing next to Trump at his inauguration. These are ominous optics. Yeah, and so so if you were to ask me what I thought of the inauguration, I would say ominous. I mean, I said something really, really strong earlier today. I said, the gates of hell have opened, and all that is treacherous and joyless sucked us into the gaping maw of dystopic medieval barbarism at the hands of Silicon Valley overlords that have choked the last remnants of autonomy out of our very souls. Wow, yeah, I'm a bit of a black pillar today.
Well, with good reason.
Yeah.
I think the fact that I've been trying to articulate this all day, and you'll recognize what I'm going to say. The fact that it happened indoors, away from the outdoors, away from the public, is an indication of what we are going to be seeing in the future. Remember earlier I said these guys are all about mediating your lives. Well, this event was nothing but a mediated experience, right? There was nobody from the general public admitted to this hall that you could see, that you knew, right? The only everybody else was outside, and they were watching it on the screen. So how much of this do we know is real? I mean, I know it's real because they went through all the boring fucking government stentatorial, or whatever that word is, language of like speech making and blah, 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 and bloviating, and everybody had to say something in a speech, and then the shitty music from the Marine Corps band or whatever band that was, and that and the American tenor singing "Oh America," like fuck, ew, right? They do all that. They have to do all that because that's part of the deal, and that's probably that's probably what they're saying. Oh, it's too cold. With all this stuff, we gotta bring it inside. Well, no, they had to bring it inside because they didn't want you there. They want to show you what was there so that you get used to the fact, because it may have been what you saw is what happened, but they want you to get used to the fact that, you are all going to have a mediated life from here on out.
Right. You are going to be told what is or what isn't. And you simply don't have any. You have less power now than you ever had. Like, it's not that you don't even have it's not that you don't even have the influence or the power to shape your government, but it's that whatever you have inside of you, they're going to use it, exploit it, make money off of it, and then punish you for it. Like, this is treacherous what it is.
Right.
This is why you have to get off social media and go back to 1992, go back to 1993, go back to 1970, just
Whatever
anything.
it is.
Just get away from the computer, because what's happening in the real world is not what's going to be mediated to you.
Right.
How do we know that fucking inauguration wasn't pre-recorded and fed to us as if it was live?
Yeah.
You know, you already witnessed them pre-record an event and then tell you over and over and over again that it was a real live event
that happened on a certain date.
And that, you know, hundreds of people had to go rot in jail for the next 4 or 5 years because of it.
Yeah.
That was all fabricated, all of it. So that was a hoax, and they fed it to you as if it was real. So once they do that, they tell you who they are. So when people tell you who they are, you have to believe them. You know, you have to believe that this time is different. It's actually worse.
Speaking of all that, you want to read that tweet from AOC?
Yes.
Actress on call.
Right. So she's not my favorite person.
Mine either. We like to make fun of her.
So
but we don't think she's stupid like a lot of people think.
It's not a tweet that she wrote.
It was a statement or something?
It was a statement she made.
Okay.
So it wasn't pre-recorded.
The inauguration, Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? All these journalists are like, Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Are you going to the inauguration? Let me make myself clear. I don't celebrate rapists. So no, I'm not going to the inauguration room.
So I don't know if anyone could hear that. I mean, it barely registered on the
it wasn't
microphone.
very loud.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. I think I can.
Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Congresswoman, are you going to the inauguration? Are you going to the inauguration? Let me make myself clear. I don't celebrate rapists. So no, I'm not going to the inauguration room. All these journalists are like,
okay. Yeah, and
so
I like how she kind of like modified her camera or her view.
Yeah.
She looks like she's about 12 in that video.
Right.
It's weird.
So you notice she didn't say Trump was a rapist.
Right. She didn't say
She
Trump.
didn't say that.
Yeah, she didn't say that Trump was a racist. She didn't say Trump.
rapist.
She just said rapist.
She's like, I don't celebrate rapists, and I don't either. So remember that David Sachs is the crypto czar.
Yeah.
In the Trump cabinet.
Right.
And Peter Thiel basically created JD Vance, and Peter Thiel orchestrated the Trump fundraising campaign at David Sachs's house. And Peter Thiel is as far as the tech overlords go and the tech mafia and the tech mob bosses, Peter Thiel is probably the ringleader.
Yeah, I would say so too.
Of those guys. And he's the one that probably came up with the idea, let's get to Trump. Let's make sure that we fund his campaign, get him to win, and get him to fund all of our crypto AI bullshit. Okay. So this is back in October of 2016. Zenefits CEO David Sachs, so he used to run a company called Zenefits, apologizes for parts of a 1996 book that he co-wrote with Peter Thiel that called date rape nothing more than belated regret. So I won't read the article to you, but I will tell you that there was an article written years and years ago when Peter Thiel and David Sachs were at Stanford together. And basically, they equated date rape with nothing more than seductresses, young women who had regrets after they slept with someone. So basically, they're rapists. They're rapist apologists. And so I think that that's who AOC was talking about.
Yeah.
I don't celebrate rapists, she said. I don't think she was talking about Trump. She was talking about the fact that Peter Thiel, and David Sachs, who both benefited from apartheid in South Africa. And if you don't understand what apartheid in South Africa was about,
Go to Wikipedia.
Go to Wikipedia, or maybe JP
I
can
won't
sum it
talk-
up for you. And
I don't want to talk about it.
okay, it's pretty bad. Okay, it's like Nazism,
Yeah,
right?
basically, it's probably worse than Nazism. I'll just
Mhm.
say this: it was basically apartheid means apart, right? So it was basically two societies of people living in one country, black and white, and it was worse than Nazism because it wasn't like they killed those people; they made them live in horrible conditions and serve them as well, it's not much different than the United States. Well, it was a lot different than the United States.
So Peter Thiel and David Sachs are old pals. They wrote an article together where they basically summed up date rape as seductress who simply had regrets, and so just calls it date rape.
Yeah.
Okay, those are the kind of people that Trump is surrounding himself with now. I don't believe for 1 minute that Trump has ever committed sexual assault. I don't believe for 1 minute that he is a bad person when it comes to treating human beings with respect. I think he's legions better than Bill Clinton or Joe Biden.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he is a nice person. I think he's a good husband, an extremely attentive husband and generous to his children and uplifting to his family. I think he's one of the healthiest presidents that we've ever had and I think that is what boosted the morale of so many in the United States, is the way that he's just like a nice guy. He's funny, but he is surrounding himself with some of the worst people that have ever been born. And that is what really, really concerns me, is how strong is he? Will he be able to sort of push them back? Will he be able to say, no, you guys are taking it too far? No, I don't know.
Now, would I have a highball with him and do a few rounds on the links? No. First of all, because I don't play golf. But second of all,
but what if he were to pick up a guitar and have a glass of whiskey with you?
No. No.
No? Okay.
I don't.
He's a capitalist.
Well,
so,
that and a billionaire, and I just he's not anybody that I really would relate to. I don't like him necessarily. All the accolades you just gave. I mean, it's outlining sort of his character, and I agree with that.
And I think it gives the reason why the morale went up in the United States while he was president.
But he's also a good salesman too. So
sure.
I some of this might be, well, I don't know. It's hard to hide that kind of genuity. No.
Genuine?
When you're genuine, yeah. What's the word? It's like what's the adjective for that?
Right. When you're genuinely.
Yeah, when you're genuine. And I think that he does have that quality to him, but he is also a very, very effective salesperson, and he knows how to persuade. He's very good at persuasion, and so he'd probably be just as effective a car salesman as he has been a real estate mogul.
Right. So let's talk about the difference between the 2017 Trump and the 2025 Trump in what you just said. The 2017 Trump came to us as a real estate mogul, came to us as a businessman who probably knows how to manipulate the deal. He's got the art of the deal or the art of the steal down pat, right? Yeah. He knows he knows business, right?
He knows how to package ideas and turn them into effective sales strategies or whatever.
Right. And so that's the Trump that we were introduced to with 2017. Now, a couple of days or maybe even just a day or so before the inauguration, this new 2025 Trump introduced himself to us again through the meme coin.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Hawk Tui. No.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. God.
So first, if in case you guys aren't aware, a meme coin was launched. It catapulted. It went through the roof, and then Melania launched her meme coin, and his tanked, and hers started to gain. And then as hers was gaining, the Baron meme coin also came up.
Oh, God.
So is it really about meme coins, or are we looking at some kind of psychological statement about, say, a royal family in place,
Mhm.
and we're looking at more of a monarchy in a weird kind of digital social media way
Yeah, I
than
mean,
we are about actual whether this crypto shit was a real thing or not? Like, I think there's a message there.
There
and
was-
I'm still trying to figure it out.
yeah, I mean, the last time that there was that kind of comparison was the Kennedy administration, where they called it Camelot.
Mhm.
it's
They
only a model, but Camelot and
Okay. Monty
sorry,
Python.
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I can't help it.
I know. God. Monty
but
Python stuff. It's
yeah,
so-
right. So it's my childhood coming back. Anyway, the last time that was done was Kennedy, and I when I was doing some looking for images to make the thumbnail,
The
graphic
thumbnail
today,
yeah.
I came across an image of Trump speaking, and Kennedy was on a screen behind him.
As in JFK?
Yeah, as in JFK. Weird, right?
But so they're trying to get the public, the viewer, to make that connection.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the older, more conservative Camelot. Because I mean, think about it.
Or
JFK,
the weird Camelot.
the weird Camelot. Yeah, the AI driven weird Camelot.
with the 9-foot tall son and the
Right.
and the wife and the supermodel, well put together wife from Slovenia,
Right.
and then Trump, who's like 70 something.
He's 78.
That's a weird Camelot, but
isn't
a
it?
Camelot nonetheless, I guess. And I guess that's
Mhm.
what the meme coin thing. Let's see what Richard Bonner has to say. Monarchy. How about a Pharaohnacy? Hi,
Like-
Rick Bonner from Pennsylvania.
Like he's our Pharaohnacy. So like Pharaoh.
Yeah.
Like Pharaoh Sanders? No, not like that. No, that's different. No, sorry, the jazz reference. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, let my people go, right?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Well, so to go back to your original question to me about the whole thing about like the
meme coin.
The meme coin,
Yeah.
right? I still am like trying to catch up on the non-fungible token bullshit, right? I think this is the non-fungible token of 2025,
Okay.
right?
I'll take that because that went nowhere.
That went nowhere. It was a flash in the pan. It's still around, kind of, but it's
Yeah.
not really it's not really a thing anymore. It was just an excuse for bad art to be sold on a market.
Mhm.
So who the fuck knows? You had an interesting take on it earlier, and I don't remember what it was exactly. That like gold, like it's like it's going to replace gold or
Right,
replace
so-
the real.
so-
The real.
The real. So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my earlier, what I was sort of playing with the idea that, it was based on what somebody had said, which is that his meme coin had surpassed gold, like whatever the code is for gold in either the stock market or the crypto market world, whatever,
Mhm.
that it had surpassed that. And I don't think it did. What I'm saying is they want you to believe it did. These are the stories that we're told, because again, I think that this entire existence in our country is made up of stories. I don't believe any of it to be
That's a
real.
Really good way of putting it.
So the stories that we're told are that this individual had surpassed the value of something that was actually salient,
Mhm.
something concrete,
Mhm.
something that you could actually hold in your hands.
Mhm.
And so it's this non-existent like thing that's out there, this sort of
Yeah, it's
this
amorphous.
amorphous
Yeah,
thing has somehow surpassed the tangibles in life.
right.
And that is something that's really dangerous. That leads to a breakdown in the psychological uh, foothold that Americans might have in reality.
Yeah, and
The consequences of that are so devastating.
Mhm.
And individuals can barely grasp it.
And I think, you mentioned something about that earlier today to me in relationship to um, uh, addiction.
Right.
And that, we're going to see more and more overdose deaths
Mm-hmm.
from fentanyl and other drugs,
Right.
but especially fentanyl in the future.
Right.
And this is what's going to drive people to addiction.
Right.
It doesn't matter the substance.
Right.
Some substance or some abuse. You don't even have to be a substance abuser to be addicted. Like, there's gambling and there's
Sure, there's pot, there's social media, there's gambling, there's sex, there's
alcohol, there's whatever.
alcohol, there's porn, there's TV, there's
Right.
whatever.
Right. And and then the addiction to crises, right?
Right.
We've seen this on like YouTubers who they deal in crisis porn. That's their trade, their stock and trade, and that's how they make their money. And we watched this with the aftermath of Helene, right?
Right.
Hurricane Helene. And so there's that too.
Right.
Right. So, and people get, like we've talked about, the addiction on Facebook.
Right.
Right. And so I think that this administration is going to be driving more and more addiction, along with, I think what really sums it up is this will be an administration of narrative. It will be a 3-ring fucking circus, but not only a 3-ring circus, but like I said, he had all the talking points, the Republican Party talking points, but I don't think those things are actually going to take place. I think we're going to hear stories about them.
Right.
More so than with the Biden administration.
Right. Exactly.
Because the Biden administration was about stories too, spinning stories about, what did they call him? He was like not in his right head, his right mind.
Dementia?
Dementia Joe.
Dementia
They called him
Joe.
dementia. He's not demented. Doesn't have dementia.
Right.
He's fine.
Yeah.
That's just bullshit.
So there's let me just say a couple of things. And we have been at this for a little over an hour, so maybe we can go for another 10 minutes or so.
And wrap this up. Yeah.
But so what happens when you replace the tangibles with the intangibles in society? You lose your foothold on reality.
Your grounding.
You lose your grounding. You lose your connection. When your social media sound bites or your social media clips that you see of these leaders in your administration saying things or doing things that piss you off, when that becomes more of a reality than your life, than what's really real, you kind of lose your footing and you fall into addiction. So regarding the drug addiction, again, no one's ever talked about it. No one's ever talked about the fact that over the last 4 or 5 years, we've had over 500,000 people. We're creeping up into like the 600,000 person range, starting in 2019, going all the way to like the end of 2024. Over 500,000 Americans have died of a drug overdose. That's more people that died in Gaza. That's more people that have died in, Ukraine. That's an astonishing, like stunning number of people, of Americans that have died of drug overdoses. I predict that number will get worse as we roll out the onset of AI and more people's images, their sound bites, their postings on different social media sites are used and as are used to create whatever it is that will make money for the technology world. You know, and I have a feeling that once these things roll out at, you know, and they're already doing it. It's already happening. So so we're already there, and you'll get swept up into it, not even realize it. And we'll see more and more people who simply can't they can't see what's real versus what's not real, and what comes with that is a loss of life,
Right.
is a loss of the human experience, and then you collapse into an existential crisis. And when you're in an existential crisis, or you're at this turning point in this fourth industrial revolution, a lot of people are going to die. A lot of people have to die in order for that turn to be complete. So when you think of a revolution, you think of a turning, right? You don't just think of like Viva la Revolution or whatever. You think of a turning, like the revolution of the clock, the revolution of the earth. You know, so the cycles. So when you have these revolutions where this rollout of the unreal becomes more valuable and is given, like, you know, some kind of validity. It's given a value when it should have never been given a value in the first place. The value should be in humans. It should be in the human ingenuity, human creativity, human labor, human compassion, human.
So he, you know, and he talked about this a little bit in the speech.
In his inauguration address, inaugural address.
Yeah.
A little bit.
But, you know, not to the degree we're talking about. And he didn't really, he talked about getting rid of, you know, cartels and people are in cartels, but he didn't talk about addiction. He didn't talk about homelessness. He might have mentioned homelessness quickly, like one sentence. I missed him like a segment or like a little thing that he said, and it sounded to me like he was talking about homelessness. But we recently were looking at an article from the SF Standard, which is a publication in San Francisco that published a graphic, and it was talking about how like billions of dollars are fed into this homelessness nonprofit complex. Thank you. And we witnessed it firsthand. You know, like 10 years ago, or around 10 years, about 10 years ago, we witnessed it firsthand. But it's like that on steroids now. And it's all through nonprofit agencies that funding gets distributed, but nothing helps the people. You know,
the people are still being dragged out of SROs in San Francisco in body bags every day.
And then and they're going on about how homelessness, street homelessness, people living on the street has gone down. I don't know where these people are living or not living, but at the same time, there's a whole complex of agencies. This is just in San Francisco that they need to navigate in order to get out of homelessness or be homeless or get into homelessness. You know, because it was weird. They had it set up for like the agencies that you would deal with if you're just entering homelessness, being homeless, and then exiting homelessness. Right.
Everything's bureaucratic, and and there's, you know, if there is a thing that a person needs to do, then there will be a nonprofit there to intervene and make money off of it.
And you know, this administration reminds me of the kind of administration that would support something like that because it's entrepreneurial, it makes money, and it's making money off of people's misery and immiseration. And I don't think that this administration will care about that.
No.
You told me, you said you think this administration is one that will not care or uncaring.
Yes, because of the cabinet, because of the all of those Silicon Valley assholes are making money in one way or another with these nonprofits.
We thought it was ironic that Elon Musk, I'm trying to make him French, Elon Musk shows up in McKees Rocks, the very place where, you know,
we used to live.
and a place where billionaires have invested. What are those funds?
They are called opportunity zones.
Right.
So, you've always heard of tax havens for the rich, like offshore tax havens. Those kind of don't exist anymore. What the wealthy, especially the tech sector, is doing is they are investing and then getting a profit off of impoverished communities throughout the country. And we lived in we lived in the ghetto. And
Yeah.
basically what it is.
And one of the most exploited communities in the country.
And that's what I was just going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
is that the tech billionaires invest in programs that exploit the poor. So for this is a place where there is blighted homes that it's like being in a war zone. It was like living in a war zone when we lived there for 5 years. And Elon Musk was speaking there. So he probably was completely appalled. It's probably why he went and lived in the lap of luxury right after that.
Yeah.
Right after he went to the ghetto and
Right.
saw how JP and I used to have to live.
But
he immediately went to Mar-a-Lago.
But how
and moved in with
investment
Trump.
dollars were being used
Yeah.
to exploit these people further.
Totally. So that's the new tax haven, are the poor properties or the poor communities right here in the United States. And there's a lot of money there. So why not take communities that are sort of doing well and make them poor and make them blighted,
Right.
and make it so
like
that
San Francisco.
Exactly. And make it so that the billionaire sect get more of a profit from them.
Well, and I'm gonna go back to the first administration again, and they were all right with opportunity zones.
Oh yeah, they started it. It was under Trump's first administration that Ben Carson,
Right.
who was the Housing and Urban Development Secretary,
Who showed up in
ta-da,
McKees
McKees Rocks, again, one of the most blighted and poor communities. We are talking about, let me just tell you that, when JP and I were traveling somewhere, we needed someone to come in and house sit for us and watch our little cat. And two gay liberal men were so appalled and so disgusted with the community. These are liberal men and liberal people who claim that they care about the poor. These people were absolutely traumatized, and they were just like, the look on their faces was just totally one of just complete horror and disgust with the fact that it was the ghetto. You walk across the street and there's weeds overrun, homes are overrun with weeds. There's blighted homes and there's people living there. This is how we had to live for 5 years. And these tech billionaires are taking the school systems and, installing behavioral programs in the school systems through electronic devices and tabletop devices and things like that, so that the kids are basically chained to this addiction through their devices, just like you are also chained to an addiction to your phone. So I could go, we've already done a huge, hour-long video essay about it called Lifelong Learning. I did a shorter video called Achilles' Heel, which talks about the opportunity zones and focusing on poor people. I feel like this administration is going to do that, but now they're going to expand their target audience, which is no longer just the poor or the Black community, but now it's everybody. They're going to expand the target audience. Now, there are a couple of things that Trump said that I'm sure people are really excited about. He's like, we're going to close the border. We're going to keep people who are on a visa. They got to go back and all this. My feeling is that the Biden administration, over the last 4 years, has opened the floodgates and to such a wide extent that so many people flooded the border, and he did it on purpose, so that when the Trump administration comes in and closes a little bit, it's not really going to make a difference. Right. It's not going to make a difference to your economies. It's not going to make a difference to your bottom line.
Right.
It's only going to look like he's
Exactly.
doing something
Exactly. Which
because,
is, yeah.
you
Goes
know,
back to the idea of telling stories.
right, exactly.
So it'll be just enough to go, see what we did, but it won't make any difference.
It won't make a real difference in your day-to-day life. And as far as this bullshit about sending people back who are on visas, that's bullshit because JP works with someone who allowed his visa to expire, which is a huge no-no to the federal government. And that guy still has a job. In fact, he's more secure than ever
Right.
here in the United States. So fuck that idea. That's not going to happen.
He was given the opportunity to keep his job, update his visa, and come back. Like any of you out there listening to us or me, we would have been fired for that shit.
Yeah, you would have immediately been fired. But for some reason,
now that was under Biden, but still,
yeah,
I don't think anything will change under Trump because the cabinet people, the fucking Silicon Valley people, are all about the H-1B visa.
Right, exactly.
Right?
The H-1B visa, which is specifically the South Asians.
Yeah,
right?
I mean it primarily focuses on the people from the Indian Peninsula and other areas in that other regions in that area.
Mhm.
So it is.
Yeah. So this is going to be more of the same, only worse. Society will only become more depressed and more addicted to whatever vices they have, whether it's pot, alcohol, fentanyl, or whatever. The cartels will still be, controlling our downtown arenas, our downtown markets, especially the night markets, like they do in Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, New York, Philadelphia,
probably Chicago,
and
even like places like Indianapolis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the cartels are there. They're here to stay. They're not going anywhere. Any type of border control that Trump claims that the Trump administration claims that they will be able to enact, it won't really make a big impression on your local economy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Biden administration basically flooded the entire system, rubber stamping people in at such a great, vast amount that no matter what you do, it's not really going to make a difference.
Either that or nobody came in at all. And it's really the H-1B visa people that are causing the problems.
Yeah, well, I do think that we have a problem with cartels.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe that there's a cartel problem, and it's now oozed into your wealthy suburban neighborhoods where kids who've never even touched any drug in their entire life, they're at like a homecoming party, they take a teeny little sip of beer, and next thing you know, they're dead because somebody laced it with a drug. So. And these are the goals. This is the goal. It always has been the goal. That goal is not changing. I will leave you with this statement regarding the COVID operation. Remember, it was Trump who announced the national emergency. When Trump was manhandled and strong-armed by the military and by the media and by whatever other operations or agencies were involved in order to get this society to comply and lock down, he could have easily said, no, what the hell do you think you're doing? Yeah. He could have fought them. Yeah. He's president of the fucking United States. He could have said, I am not doing that. You'll have to take me down first before I let you do that to the people who voted for me. So we just remember that he did not fight it.
Right.
And so what makes you think he's going to...
He liked his job.
Yeah. What makes you think he's going to fight anything else? And then regarding the COVID story, the whole point of all of the information that was coming through social media, and then some of it was censored, and then some of it was allowed to be said, and some of it wasn't allowed to be said. And then there was all of this bullshit that came forward. Not one person told the truth about what it really was. The real health issue is the fact that the real health issue
Mhm.
is the fact that healthy people were dying of drug overdoses and nobody was talking about it. The CDC and the NIH and the various health agencies, they were keeping track of it.
Right.
And it was so bad and it was so alarming that they used those numbers to say that there was a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
This is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And so they needed people to believe something that wasn't true, and they needed people to believe a fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Over the reality that was actually taking place.
Because this reality that is actually taking place, which is that innocent people are dying of these drug overdoses,
Mm-hmm.
that can be fixed.
Right.
That can be fixed
But if you
through informing people.
but you don't make any money otherwise.
Exactly.
You know, and it's just like the opioid crisis that took place, which also
It's still in
effect
operation. Yeah.
as an emergency. Every 90 days they renew it.
Right.
Right.
So Trump has also announced in his inauguration speech today that there's a 90-day emergency.
Yeah.
Just like there's a 90-day emergency conversation around the TikTok ban.
Right. Yeah.
So-
Exactly. Well, this was going to be a border emergency,
Mhm.
right, down in the southern border of the country with Mexico.
So whenever you hear a statesman or whenever you hear your governor or your mayor or your president say, I am announcing an emergency, that means that's the signal that there's funding coming in. So a whole bunch of people that are working at the border just got raises. Does that necessarily mean that the borders are going to be more secure? No.
Just means more money, though.
It just means the people who work for the border all just got raises by Trump announcing the border emergency today. Boom, they all just got raises.
Or they're going to be hiring more unqualified people.
Exactly.
You know.
There's also a 90-day conversation around the TikTok ban. So the day before Trump was inaugurated, the Biden administration put a ban on TikTok. And then just a few hours after the ban, like 24 hours later, the ban was lifted and everybody was celebrating and said, oh, Trump really strong-armed the Biden administration and made TikTok come back. Yay. No, what happened was there was an agreement between TikTok and the Biden administration and the Trump administration that said that whatever incoming administration is coming in can reverse whatever the previous administration had said regarding TikTok. So the previous administration had put a ban on it. And so in this agreement that was made, the incoming administration can release the ban, release TikTok back to the world for 90 days. That's why I call it the TikTok ban emergency declaration conversation, because it's only for 90 days. And then at the end of that 90 days, they're going to revisit whether they want to ban TikTok. In that 90 days, ByteDance, which is a Chinese company that is collecting the data from the American population who are using TikTok, has to agree to some kind of pay schedule.
Mhm.
Like you got to pay the American government. The American government could care less about your data being
Right.
scraped by the Chinese government. They could care less if it's a national security issue. They could care less about that. What they want is they see the potential for all that money that's being made, that's being funneled to China, and they want in on the deal.
Yeah, right.
And ByteDance, which is, again, run by a Chinese company, and not only run by a Chinese company, but Xi Jinping is like a shareholder in it.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, and he's like he's like the leader.
Right.
He's the dear leader of China.
Right, exactly.
So basically the United States is like, we want in on the deal. Stop using our American citizens as slaves. That's our job. Our job is to use our American citizens as slaves. It has nothing to do with caring about your data or national security or even your health, because TikTok is digital fentanyl. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we can wrap it up there. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I had another point, but it's kind of along the same lines, and it doesn't really feature, I think.
yeah,
Basically, we're looking at another administration that was put into place by whatever the deep state is, because he's aligning himself with globalization efforts, even though he is being lifted up as a nationalist, or as a, maybe not a nationalist, because that's
populist.
a populist. Yeah, nationalist is a little harsh. Even though he wears that mantle well, he pretends to like be all about America and the nationalism that goes along with that. But the rhetoric around globalization, the pro-globalization people versus those populists and those strong men and those fascists out there. Globalization is fascism. That's what it is, and it paints itself as being something else. And I think that we're just going to get more of the same thing, and it's all in the name of profit. It has nothing to do with ideology. The only ideology here is profit.
Right. One good thing, though, that can come out of this, in my opinion, JP, is that it's the people. If people started to behave a little bit more independently of what their social media feeds are telling them, and independently of government and capitalists, and especially these tech overlords and these tech mob bosses. So it's like the mob. We watched The Irishman last night. You wanted to watch it for a long time.
It came out in 2019.
2019. And it's
on Netflix.
I'm a girl, so I'm like, another Scorsese film. But it was really good, and it taught me a lot. So
I feel the same way. I mean, I'm really on the fence about Scorsese, but because
you were into it.
I was into it though. Yeah, no, but it was like all the same old dudes.
Tropes, right? And
all
the old
tropes,
dudes with the cars and the dentures and the threats and the
long,
boring conversations about
they're all,
who's the master of the universe. And
they're always
not.
sitting in some cafe or a table talking about shit. It's like, oh, come on, Scorsese. But it's sort of like it was like his last hurrah almost. But anyway, because all those guys are like on their last legs.
But I saw I was able to interpret it, The Irishman.
Sure.
The movie. I was able to interpret it as like the Silicon Valley mob bosses.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Like stepped into the federal government, which was my biggest nightmare back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
And it's happened.
Yeah.
So the good news is that there's more and more people who are, disconnecting from.
I agree.
I think that we're witnessing like this major disconnect. It's like billionaires are going to billionaire.
Right.
That's what they do.
Right.
Mob bosses are going to mob boss. That's what they do. The government is going to govern.
I think,
or try to.
I think also
just leave it alone.
So these are our positive thoughts. I think the harder they push on things like Hurricane Helene, that left devastation, untold devastation on the region that was affected, Appalachia. We're seeing people coming together. We're seeing mutual aid in a very organic way, not in a fake anarchist, mutual aid way, right?
Right.
And we're seeing people disconnecting from like, well, wow, HUD isn't even doing anything for us, so fuck them. When we see them, we'll kick them out. FEMA, not HUD. Sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, they're all the same, right?
Right.
And it's like, we don't trust them. They've done nothing for us, even though we beg them to do something for us. It's like, what they are doing is relying on each other.
Right.
And I think we're going to see more and more of that. So the harder they push on shit like that, I mean, they meaning the state and the, whatever is driving this, the harder, the more, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? So you're going to get more and more people coming together and turning their backs and unplugging. Oh, and that was the other thing I was going to mention earlier. That was the thing I was thinking of. The whatever it is, the deep state, the blob, right? The blob that they call the blob has selected this president. The people did not, and everybody acts like the people did.
Right. That is a good point.
Yeah.
Thanks for reminding us about that,
Yeah.
because the people didn't select Biden and the people didn't select Trump.
Not even the first time.
Not even the first time. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah. No, this was all a setup.
Yeah.
For things to happen a certain way.
Yeah.
And remember, your man Trump sold us all out with COVID the first time round.
Yeah. That was pretty devastating.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining today. It's been over 90 minutes, so
Jesus.
Probably time to say goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. There were people that were broadcasting during the inauguration
Mhm.
that were on for 2, 3, 4 hours. So this is just a drop in the bucket compared to them. But we want to thank you for joining. And if you're just joining now, please go back and listen to this from the beginning. Every Friday, I am on camera and I do a reading for something that I feel is relevant to what's going on in the world. Or maybe it's just relevant to me and I like to share my insights with you.
Mhm.
And I always look forward to that because I get a lot of feedback and interaction from people. People email me personally, email us personally. If you want to put the email address in the chat
Mhm.
right now.
Yeah, for those of you on YouTube, you can read this.
Yeah.
Here it is right here.
And it's info@book-of-hours.com. So you can certainly send us an email if there's anything that you want me to talk about or
And by the
anything
way,
you want
our
to say.
URL is up here in the corner. It's www.book-of-hours.com. And you can get in touch with us that way as well. You just find the contact. It's info@book-of-hours.com.
Right.
And you can see our blog there and all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff we haven't updated in years. So unfortunately.
But they're still very relevant.
But the blog is active.
The blog is current. And we and the video essays that we made between 2020 and say 2023 are some of, to this day, people still email occasionally or make comments and say, wow, super relevant, even if it's just a couple of years old,
Yeah.
So we were doing that for a while. We have since gotten really busy. So it takes a lot of time to make video essays and make cartoons and stuff. So super fun to finally catch a live chat.
All right.
Hey, Frida. Yay.
Thanks for catching a live chat.
Thanks for catching the live chat.
Yeah.
So glad you were able to join us. So please join me on Friday. Usually it's around 10 or 11 in the morning on
Friday Central Time.
Friday Central Time. So I'll be back to continue with that this Friday.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining today, you guys.
Nice.
And we'll see you Friday.
All right. Bye.
Bye.